November 18, 2023, Brandon Ledwidge was at his home on Barry Drive in Finglas, a Dublin area notorious for crime and gangland violence. When he heard a knock at the door, he went out into the front garden, not knowing he was about to meet his maker. The attacker, believed to be a member of his own crew, pulled out a gun and shot him at close range. Ledwidge was hit in the chest and head in what seemed to be a planned execution. As the investigation into the crime began to unfold, one thing was clear: Ledwidge was killed by someone he knew. But why? Brandon Ledwidge grew up in Finglas, a working-class area of Dublin's north side that's notorious for crime and drug problems. Crime wasn't an abstract concept for him. It was part of daily life in the community. At 23 years, he had a criminal record for drug-related offenses. Gardaí records show he was charged 3 times for possession of hard drugs for supply, with a court date set just days after his death. Before he turned to crime, he was a talented footballer, playing as a defender for Finglas Celtic in his youth. Living in this environment, Ledwidge was introduced to the criminal underworld early on. His uncle Kevin Ledwidge was brutally killed in his Finglas home on July 15, 2007. 2 men approached the house, and when Kevin opened the door, he was shot multiple times in what was an intentional attack. His demise, like Brandon's later fate, had all the hallmarks of a hit. It showed the harsh reality of life in Finglas. During his teenage years, Brandon became part of the Gucci Gang, a notorious drug-dealing crew known for their flashy lifestyle, love of designer clothes, and no-nonsense approach to their illegal activities. The gang, led by Mr. Flashy, was a well-oiled machine. Brandon was more than just a foot soldier. He was an enforcer, collecting payments and making sure the gang's business was running smoothly. He was involved in the distribution of hard drugs and other illegal substances in Finglas. He was a respected but replaceable cog. Brandon started out as an enforcer for the Gucci Gang, but later switched to a smaller family-orientated gang in Finglas that dealt in hard drugs. This change of allegiance seems to have played a part in his murder. The Gucci Gang started out as a loose group of young lads in their 20s who operated in Finglas. Under Mr. Flashy, they became known for drug dealing and living the high life, dressed to the nines and documenting it all on social media. Unlike the Kinahan cartel, they were a smaller operation. As they got more famous, so did the attention from the Gardaí. They intensified their efforts, seizing drugs, arresting people, and focusing on key members of the gang. Gardaí's previous crackdowns had weakened the gang, and by 2023, they had lost a lot of power. Mr. Flashy had fled to Wexford and left the gang in tatters. The gang was falling apart. Some were caught, some went on the run, and some, like Brandon, were looking for new alliances to help them get out of their situation. Ledwidge's new alliance was with a smaller Finglas gang that stayed out of the spotlight and ran a continuous narcotics operation. This was more than a backup plan. It was a new start for a certain criminal network that was still powerful in the local drug trade. But even with this new crew, he was a small player in the bigger picture. This gang had connections to more dangerous criminals, including connections to the Kinahan organization through people like Robert Brown, a hitman who has been in prison since 2018. Ledwidge was a distributor for this firm, overseeing medicine sales across the region. Brandon presented himself as a wealthy mobster on social media, wearing designer clothes, promoting premium products, and posting pictures from his holidays. To the outside world, he seemed to be doing well, reaping the benefits of his criminal lifestyle. But beneath the surface, he was just another player in a violent game, a man in danger, living in a world where loyalty was fleeting and betrayal often ended in fatal consequences. As the months went by before his murder, Brandon was in big trouble. He was embroiled in several drug possession with intent to supply cases, and it was putting pressure on him and those around him. But the threat wasn't just from the Gardaí. There were whispers he had cut ties with those who had previously protected him. By early 2023, Ledwidge was in a tight spot. He had survived the demise of the Gucci Gang and had set himself up in a new crew. But in the weeks leading up to his death, something changed. According to the investigators, he made a fatal mistake. At approximately 7 p.m. on that chilly Saturday night, Brandon opened the door, likely anticipating a friend's arrival, unaware of the threats that lay outside. However, the individual waiting outside had no intention of engaging in conversation. Gunfire erupted suddenly, and within moments he was on the ground. According to Garda investigations, the shooter was a member of Ledwidge's gang rather than a rival organization. The assailant allegedly did not conceal his name, implying a personal motive. The evidence indicates that a pistol was used in the attack. After the murder, Garda established an incident room at Finglas Garda Station for a thorough investigation. They secured the crime scene on Barry Drive, analyzed CCTV footage, and performed door-to-door inspections. However, community cooperation has been limited. The primary suspect readily went to a Garda station a few days after the incident, but no charges were filed by March 2025. The probe is still ongoing. In the aftermath, fear permeated the community, resulting in an eerie silence. Officers went door to door looking for witnesses, but in neighborhoods like Finglas, inhabitants were typically hesitant to speak. This could lead to danger on their doorstep. Ledwidge's funeral was held at St. Canice's Church in Finglas, drawing a large crowd. Young people on scrambler bikes showcased stunts outside, and his silver coffin was brought in during the service. Online tributes poured in from family and friends, including heartfelt messages from his sister Casey. Unfortunately, his family then received threats and was supposedly told to leave Finglas. The group is still active, prompting concerns about potential reprisal violence in the neighborhood. Brandon Ledwidge's death was most likely the result of several causes. According to investigators, he may have made a significant error that resulted in his death. One idea holds that Brandon was attempting to break away and start his own organization within the criminal underground. Such an action would be interpreted as a direct challenge to the existing power structures. After seeing the collapse of one group, he may have been looking to establish himself as an independent dealer with the necessary connections. A source mentioned to the media, it's possible he was trying to go out on his own, and that's why he was targeted. If this is accurate, it would have positioned him as a considerable threat to his former associates. The gang he was affiliated with dominated the local drug market, and allowing one of their own to compete was intolerable. His murder could serve as a cautionary tale to others, illustrating the consequences of defying the established order. Another possibility is that he had a direct altercation with a senior member of the group. According to sources, he was involved in a heated argument with a high-ranking gang member just before his death. In these criminal surroundings, any type of contempt or defiance is prohibited. When a subordinate opposes a person of superior position, the reaction is swift and harsh. Some assume that his murder was motivated not only by the need to eliminate a threat, but also by the desire to strengthen the gang's hold on power. Another theory suggests that his death was a preemptive action. With legal issues looming, authorities were monitoring Ledwidge closely. If his gang believed he might collaborate with law enforcement to lessen his own punishment, they would see that as a threat. By eliminating him, they guaranteed he would never have the opportunity to become an informant. The day after the shooting, police convened a case conference to determine a clear motive. However, the community in Finglas had already grasped the situation. The individuals involved were not outsiders. They were the very people Brandon had collaborated with and once trusted. A friend said on social media, "You know you can't even trust your own lads." Finglas has been a hotspot for drug-related crime, prompting regular raids by the Garda. Ledwidge's murder marked the end of an 11-month stretch without a gang-related killing in Ireland, indicating a resurgence of violence in the area. His death highlights the fragile dynamics of trust and power within these groups, where perceived threats often lead to deadly consequences. And that will be all for today's video. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications for more criminal gang stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.